Hello and welcome to Awaken Your Human Design. My name is Moni. This is my wonderful co-host Danny, and today we're going to be talking about the gates of the sacral center.
I love this because this is well, technically it's my favorite center because it describes me so much and I have so many of my channels running into it. So this will be a good episode.
Absolutely. So thank you to everyone who is watching live, and thank you for liking and subscribing. It really helps us out, and let's dive into the sacral center. So the sacral center is about vital energy and fertility. This is what creates our generators and our manifesting generators when this is defined in somebody's chart. And so this is the powerhouse. This is the battery that keeps on giving. And so first up, we're going to talk about gate 42, which is increase and growth. And this is part of collective abstract circuitry. And gate 42 links up with root gate 53.
So this growth, I'll read the line, the expansion of resources, which maximizes the development of full potential. That maximization is sacral business. The keynote of the whole sacral center itself is sustainment. That's just one of its prime keynotes because it's designed to sustain. The battery you refer to it as is perfect for it. It becomes the Energizer Bunny, as all the open sacral peeps can attest to. But it's directionless without our projectors. It's impactless without our manifestors, and it reflects upon nothing without our reflectors except itself. So anyways, this maximization, this increase is a design of bringing things to some kind of a, not necessarily a conclusion, but a satisfaction. This would be a great gate of satisfaction because you bring things through to a type of completion. This fertility to a growth that decides to keep growing takes gate 53 below it and says that which 53 started, I will mature. And it becomes part of the channel of maturation. It's a design to mature all experiences into something. So it's our genetic proclivity to take the relay and bring it over the finish line.
That's really perfect.
Mm.
I really appreciate how you elaborated on the completion, because I've always like, okay, 53 starts stuff, 42 finishes it in a very, very simplistic kind of way. But I like how you elaborated on it, that it continues the process of maturation. So it can eventually get to some kind of conclusion. So it's like ultimately the simple 53 starts at 42 finishes it is still like a really easy go-to to remember it. But the way you explained it was really cool. Like it matures it, it keeps that process growing into some kind of fruition.
And as it relates to completion, I don't want to lean on it too much because that is the name of gate 35 as well. And they're both in this experiential process. They're both a part of this collective part that's all sensing and feeling and stuff. But 35's completion is a manifested thing. And this is a step by step sustaining process to complete. This gate doesn't say been there, done that. This gate goes, whew, it looks like we're in good shape and we've taken this process through to some form of maturing plateau that's satisfying. It's got to satisfy the sacral. That's the thing. If the sacral's not satisfied, it's not mature.
Yeah, instead of completion, it's almost more like continuation.
Absolutely, because it will lead into something else that then continues somewhere else. Definitely. So I
That's
feel
cool.
pretty good about gate 42.
Same. It was fun kind of going deeper into it. Next up, we have gate 3, which is difficulty at the beginning, and the gate of ordering. Gate 3 is part of individual knowing circuitry, and it links up with root gate 60.
The fundamental challenge of initiation is to transcend the confusion and establish order. Now, the confusion isn't a mental process that this is establishing order from. It's establishing order from gate 60 below. This makes the channel of mutation. It's important to notice these first 3 gates we're going over are part of the format energies. And the format energies, if you have any of these gates, or especially any of these channels, will guarantee everything else in your body graph has a flavor and a distinct pieces of this gate will be in it. If you have one of these gates, you can always add the keynotes in when you're describing any other gate. I have gate 60, so I'm always feeling stuck, in a place, and it's easy. I can apply that stuckness to my gate 34 or my gate 20 or any of them. Um, and so this takes that energy of knowing that we're have limitations. 60 is the fuel for to transcend a limitation. Through that transcendence, gate 3 picks it up and realizes that the acceptance of the limitation is the primary source of your transcendence of it. So the acceptance of it, the guy who, lost a leg in an accident or something, like he's got to transcend a limitation, right? And then we always hear the stories of the ones that transcend it well. They make something of themselves. They do something. They create a new order for themselves with a prosthetic leg or however they do it. And this is no different. So it's like it's very much like the loss of, let's go with the loss of a limb. It's a little morbid, but gate 3 says, I've lost my limb, and it doesn't know what to do until suddenly some kind of confusion over transcending that limitation takes place. And then it takes the great sustaining power that can only sustain through its satisfaction. Each one of these gates is going to get measured against the sacral's satisfaction. Otherwise, it's frustrated and not doing well. And the satisfaction of this gate is just very simple. It goes from, I don't want to be here, limping and or can't play my piano anymore because I'm missing an arm, whatever. I don't want to be here, to I found a way around it. I found a way through it, and all kinds of other stuff took shape. Gate 3 guarantees the mutative process come into the world, come into this plane, and come into all of us. And the thing is, it's in a pulse. So the reason it thinks it doesn't want to be here is because it doesn't know when the creative pulse is going to hit, and that transcendence and ordering will take place. This difficulty at the beginning gate of ordering says transcending confusion will establish order. And this is the only gate with that set of keynotes. So it's a generated process.
All right, that was really cool.
Yeah, anything you want to add to that? Because this one's sort of a mystery, because we can't know what it is until the pulse hits. The other ones we can write books about because we're experiencing them day in and day out. We're not experiencing gate 3 day in and day out, except its energy, which feels stuck or trapped or untranscended. You can't take it personal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the first thing is, like, you brought up the format gates. So the format channels are the 3 channels between the root and the sacral center. So the 4253, the 360, and the 952. So just going over that again, that's a thing. Then we're talking specifically about the 60 and the 3, which is an individual format channel. So the format channels like lay the foundation for the rest of the circuitry. This one would lay that foundation for the individual. And gate 60 is the drive. It's like the drive to like go past a limitation, but it's still like the limitation of it. And then the 3 is like receiving the
accept
limitation.
The limitation. It's the drive to accept our limit, because we're loaded with limitations.
Okay,
I'm human. I have to breathe air, so I have a limitation. I can't breathe underwater.
Okay. So 60 is the drive to accept the limitation, and then 3 is like receiving the limitation. And at first it's like, oh, poop, that sucks. I'm annoyed about it. This sucks. I don't want to deal with this because the individual pulse, we don't know when it's going to come through. So then it's all sad about it until all of a sudden it comes through and it's like, all right, I'm bypassing this limitation and I'm going to like create the order from the chaos and have that individual sacral response drive.
Yes, absolutely. And its ordering is given direct marching orders from gate 60 as it relates to the acceptance of that limitation. The acceptance equals the transcendence. It's some kind of flavor in and amongst that keynoting. And the thing is, when the sacral picks it up, the ordering it gives has everything to do with what sacral is here to do. It picks that thing up and then sustains with it in a satisfying way. The sacral is what brings this gate 3 is what brings order to chaos, because it's willing to do what sacral does. Another keynote for the sacral is work. The sacral is here to do work, not to be a slave, but to run out its energy, and that energy gets a lot of work done. And so as soon as this thing picks it up, gate 60 isn't going to do all the work. It's an adrenalistic blast that suddenly transcends in the pulse. Gate 3 says, hey, 60, now that your job is over, I've got the next, 14 years sustaining at this beautiful order I found and bringing it into the world and doing the work needed to do it. So, and gate 60 says, I'm not spending 14 years on that. I've transcended. It's your job now. I'll get adrenal fatigue if I spend all that time, but you won't. So have at it, Sacral. Do the work. Suddenly, in the now, after there was nothing for 8 weeks, you know, and then suddenly there's something. And we all know that as, oh my God, this was so hard. And then one day it all fell into place. This is the area of, oh my God, it just all fell into place. Ordering. So it's a bit mystical because we can't really define that like we can the other gates of the
That's really
sacral
cool.
or anywhere else, really.
Yeah, that's cool to dive into that and like, okay, the difficulty at the beginning, that makes sense now. It's gonna be
Right.
weird at first, and then it's gonna get past it.
It's a hard one to describe at first because it seems elusive, and it
Mhm.
is. It is because the pulse makes all of the individual definition potentially elusive. Some less so than others. This one a lot. It's quite elusive until you really see it that way.
Cool.
Moving on.
Moving on. So next up, we have Gate 9, which is the taming power of the small and the Gate of Focus. Gate 9 is part of collective logical circuitry, and it links up with Root Gate 52.
So this is a strange one because below it, gate 52, the adrenalized power to sit still. I mean, that's the simple version, right? The
Yeah,
adrenalized power to stop. And then when you look at it really in the way it is, it's like the rabbit or the deer that freezes, just freeze.
the 52.
And yep, 52. So what is that freezing, stopping, taking time for reassessment? It's a great gate of providing the adrenaline fuel to shock assessment into the realm. And then gate 9 picks that up and says, oh my God, there's a ton of things to focus on. So this vital energy, all these are vital, working, wants to do work, sustaining vital energies. Um, like a love affair, you know what I mean? That's vital energy, and for as long as the love affair is there, it's sustaining in a very potent way, right? We'll do anything for the creature we love, man or beast, really, we really will. And so this collective sharing power is this taming power of the small is a guarantee that we will focus on many, many, many things and keep wrangling them in and pulling them in until finally you can pack it into a ball, and like a snowball, hard enough to be able to like throw and it stays together. It's about taking a million snowflakes, waiting till all the conditions are right because the sacral has grappled with it, and then forming it into a snowball that holds together. Now that's a lot because if you look at each individual snowflake, I mean, let's face it, making a snowball is easy. It either makes or it doesn't. But if you get down to the micro level, you're taming all of these snowflakes all at once and over time, and that's what this is doing. It's 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 insatiable appetite to be focused and concentrated, and without gate 52 it can be focused and it can even be concentrated, but it's like a fire hose. It happens sometimes, it doesn't happen others because gate 52 isn't there to grab it and say, hey, sit still long enough to get somewhere with this focus, get somewhere satisfying to you. So if you have a gate 9 in your body graph, you've got a deep melancholy that you've got so much to focus on, and you see that there's work you're probably willing to do, but you just can't seem to sit still or grapple it all into place to decide that this is the thing to focus on and be concentrated over. But when it does hit, I have gate 9, and when it hits, no one can obsess like gate 9. I think we were saying that yesterday. And the thing is, why is that? Because it's the sacral, the sustaining energy loaded with fertility and responsiveness that isn't satisfied. It's frustrated and even a little bit angry that the focus isn't happening. So when it is focused and concentrated on something, the frustration starts to go away as the details are getting tamed. And so this taming power of the small name is a beautiful name that the I Ching guys came up with way back 5,000 years ago. The taming power of the small. I think it's perfect for it. It's like 100 secretaries all in one, um, getting all the details and everything sort of tamed into something workable. That's a big deal. I mean,
Yeah, details. I mean, the devil's in the details, right? Like
yeah,
you gotta have someone who wants to play with the details and get all that stuff in order, because that's all the things that add up into like a way bigger, more than the sum of its parts kind of problem.
this is such a utilitarian gate in our whole human existence. Let the gate nines create your contracts. Let the gate nines review them for little details that need to be added. You would think gate 60 does that, and it definitely does. But gate 60 isn't a motor, you know. Gate 62. You'd think gate 62 in the throat center does that, the gate of details,
Mm.
preponderance of the great. Um, but that's more of an expansive thing. This thing is looking to contract it all into a tiny little spot that they all go together. You want your accounting right, ask a gate 9 to do it. You want the bicycle chain to be oiled and screwed in just right with each link running free and easy, ask a gate 9 to obsess over it.
You're
You want to
engineers.
yeah, you want to sow a seed. I've been planting a lot. You want to sow a seed, one seed at a time, and they're really small, and it's not easy at all. Ask a gate 9 to sit there and toil satisfactorily until his back hurts, but can't stop and can't leave the pose until the last seed has gone into the last little spot, almost always one at a time, because they just take the time to do that. And so if you don't have a gate 52, find projects that force you into it so that the project itself acts like a surrogate, right? That can make you sit still long enough to get into the thing. Because sooner or later you'll get frustrated, antsy, and get up and start walking around. So get it while you can. If you only got a gate 9, and if you got gate 9 and 52, but still get it while you can. It's just that you'll recognize it more and it'll be a little more reliable.
Yeah, 9 is that energy for detail in a really impressive kind of way.
Yeah, I love it. I've been studying law recently with this, and talk about detail, and I can't stop. It, it just reminds me of this beautiful line in the movie Blades of Glory when that psycho guy kept trying to kill Jimmy, the skater, until he saved his life. And he's like, "Don't worry, I'll be back. No one can obsess like me, Jimmy." And it was just weird. It was funny. It was a comedy. Will Ferrell and the other guy. It was just funny. But no one can obsess like a gate 9. And so obsessive compulsive. Got a gate 9, you're not obsessive compulsive. You're just obsessive and compulsive. Well, I put them together,
No,
obsessive compulsive as like a condition,
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
you know,
Yeah, or you just exhibit these qualities of obsession and compulsive behavior. But
greatness,
yeah,
greatness. Because if it's happening inside the sacral, whether it's defined or not, that's part of your greatness. God gave you this gate, but
you're just
that's
aiming it at the right thing.
true. Oh yeah, it can go awry in the not self being. This can be the type of focus that, well, we don't even want to go there. This
It
is
can get
fatal.
weird.
It's
It can
weird,
get weird.
fatally weird. Absolutely.
Yeah, but in response to the correct
Yep,
aim, then gate 9, the taming power of the small, the focus, the energy for details, that
indeed,
impressive kind of quality. Perfect.
indeed.
So now we're going to talk about these 3 gates, the 42, the 3, and the 9, because they are all the sacral gates that receive root energy. So these are our 3 format gates.
Yeah, the root energy that it's receiving is there to create the type of electrical storm that only happens here. So our bodies are chemistry. There's electricity flying through all of it. We know that. The Matrix movies taught us that in a practical way. And so this place is incredible energy flying between these two things, like the kind of energy that can burn people out. And so when you get up to the top here, where it's coming into the sacral, this is where all this format energy is starting to really take shape. It doesn't take shape quite below. Sure, 53 can start something, and that's a shape. 52 can yearn for some focus, and that might take shape. 60 is just like, oh my God, I have to transcend this thing, or not. And so the focuses aren't there. The things aren't taking shape. Give it to the sacral, the workhorse, the mule, and well, gate 40 is really the mule, but we'll give a little mule here too, and uh, give it to the mule or the workhorse or the oxen here in the sacral center, and boom, becomes this whole collective individual process from past to present to future, just like with our Sphinx. These mirror the Sphinx gates in a way. That's the gates at the top, the 1, the 13, and the 7, the top of the G center. And so 42 says, oh my God, this whole thing that sort of came from a fuzzy place but got started and is an experience, abstractly, I'm going to keep going, and somehow or other it will come to some maturation process. And trust me, I'm going to share that with you, and we're all going to experience that. And gate 3 says, oh my God, that was great. It came to something. And suddenly, from the chaos of everything around that, I have order. I have order, and I'm working at that and sustaining. And gate 9 says, hey, you two clowns put all this stuff together, but I'm stuck here for the next 20 years, focused and concentrated on all the details that are going to keep that thing moving into the future. It's like the guy who discovered fire when caveman times, 20,000 years ago, whenever that hit. The guy that first found the fire, he was the individual freak. This is an analogy. I don't know for real how that worked, but he would have been the individual freak. It's like, oh my God, I see it. I struck it. I found it. I was rubbing two sticks together real hard for some reason, and smoke started showing up. And then I took it to its natural. That's a finding in the pulse. It showed up. The collective people are busy for the rest of time making sure it stays that way. And the collective understanding people are like learning all the tricks and coming up with all the details and taming them into a way such that there can be a manual and a booklet so everyone can know how to do it. And the 42/53 abstract collective people are going through a whole emotional process over it all and how great it is. And they're probably going to write some songs about it too. Right, this is what's going. And meanwhile, 20 years later, when someone says, oh my God, you guys figured out fire, the freak's the one that says, I discovered fire, but the other two are like, we've been the ones tending it, so you go sit down. You discovered fire, that was your spot in the sun 20 years ago, but we're picking up the mantle now. So it's just this funny, these 3 gates get the work done. They start the working process of the workhorse taking it home, formatting the rest of humanity with what comes out of here. Fire was a good example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you're talking like the format gate stuff, the format channel stuff, then really thinking of that as like motor to motor connections of the power of the root that's starting something, and then the regenerative power of the sacral in response. Like it could just keep going. Like that's just like these 3 channels are such powerhouses.
Yes.
It's like if you think about the root gates to the solar plexus, it's like, okay, the solar plexus has power, but maybe when it's in its wave, like wait it out and then it'll get there. But it's not in that immediate moment. And then otherwise it's like what the will to the solar plexus, that's just, one channel, and that's like very contained within the family. So really thinking about it as like the root to the sacral center, just that level of power, to really understand that level of the root power, that adrenalized pulse go, and then the sacral in response. It's just like a little like electrical factory down there.
Absolutely. Just a little electrical storm ripping back and forth inside our body, loaded with adrenaline. It really is cool. By the way, I did that once, Moni, and you shushed me. It was perfect. We were talking about something, and it was maybe the 3rd or 4th time about Moana starting the show and this and that. And I remember I barked in, I started this show. And it didn't last very long. Do you remember?
I do remember.
Because what happened? The collective being, Moana, she took over. And she's like, Danny, whatever. Okay, yeah, you know the design. Yeah, you got the stuff. Okay, yeah, you talked me into it in a magic moment when we got excited. Okay, great. So now sit down and shut up. We're doing a show. And it's, basically. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that's about how that works, isn't it? Okay. So acceptance, it's not that big a deal. But
Hmm.
I know why my generative self barked it out, and it doesn't matter. It's like, it's just one of those funny moments.
Hmm.
So cool. I like this. We wrap these up.
Yeah. You feel good? Ready to mosey?
Hmm.
So, continuing on our sacral journey and checking out all the gates in the sacral center, we're going to get to gate 34, which is quite the powerhouse. It's the power of the great, and it's the gate of power. Gate 34 is part of individual circuitry, both centering and integration. And it links up with splenic gate 57, identity gate 10, and throat gate 20. This is a busy one.
There's a lot of these names, the taming of the small, taming of the great. This one here is the power of the great. And this power is fertility and vitality and all of it. I love the heading below the line. Power is only great when its display serves the common goals and the common good. And so that's what the nine-centered sacral is all about. It's all about the recognition that at the end of the day, um, a frustrated sacral cannot serve the common good. And this gate exemplifies frustration or not, I'd say as good as any of them, if not more. So 34's power is an incredible power that simply wants to move. It says busy. And when it's connected to gate 20, I busy. And it's connected to gate 10, it's busy behavior looking inward. And when it's connected to gate 57, it's not necessarily so busy because 57 is in the pulse waiting for something to alert it to something. It's about alertness in a sense, but it's still alert to the power that it has, right? It's busy being alert to power and being aware and sensitive and intuit where the power will go. This power to release is a power to use and exert physical energy. And that physical energy can be through your throat too. The power to speak out your thing, and say the thing or yell or be soft, whatever is needed. But especially the power to physically do something. This becomes the power of the great that will move mountains, and it will literally keep sustaining a long work until somehow or other it feels satisfied that its power has been used up that day.
Hmm.
So it's a great frustration when it can't use up its power. In fact, that's its melancholy. There's a melancholy in gate 34 that says, I'm powerful, but I can't seem to put it to work. Then all the 9/11 victims, or the people with the flood when there was whatever and the dams broke and there was that big flood in New Orleans, and I'm all the way up here in Massachusetts, and what can I do? I can't do anything for them. I don't have a way to do anything. So it's a great melancholy that you can't get that power to do something, and it can feel a little bit sad. Um, but at the end of the day, the the sacral center, sustaining work, and then fertility and sexuality. That's important to notice. Except gate 34. It's the only one that has no concern with it whatsoever. It's asexual in its nature. It's not concerned itself with any of that. It's concerning itself with surviving as itself, with itself as itself right now. And that's in every circumstance as a response. So when you take these gate 34 generators who have a defined sacral, we were talking about this the other day. It's like it's this display of its physical power. It's not that it's stronger than anybody. It's just that it displays its power so quickly as a response, lightning fast sometimes. Just to ask any 34 sacral defined being how many times they've dreamed about launching their TV and their remote out the window because it stopped working for the 50th time that day or whatever. The desire to smash it in this gate as a sense of frustration is higher in this gate than any place else in the body graph. Maybe gate 3 would come close to it, but gate 3 doesn't even know. Gate 34 does have a sense of what is it it's about to smash. Gate 3 would just want to smash everything. In its frustration, I'm talking in this lower expression, and I receive it. I receive this all the time. I have a gate 34 and a defined sacral. I can't tell you how many times I'm frustrated with the smallest little thing and I just tear it open. I have to smash it. I'm putting a post in the ground. I'm just sick of it. And so the last smash is like, get in there. And it happens so fast. Hand me the hammer. I need a hammer. And it's just this frustrated energy that needs its things. So it's also proof that all frustration is not bad. A little bit of frustration is like the horseradish of a recipe. You need a little. Don't
You
need a
need a
lot.
little kick.
You just need a little. And because it helps propel you and show you, it helps frustration and satisfaction to this gate and to the sacral, to the generator as a whole, the whole group, manifesting or pure generator. A little bit of frustration is a guidepost that helps steer the ship as surely as does the observation of yourself being satisfied. They both steer it so well. Allow a little bit of frustration. It means don't go there. Don't go there. And then when you allow the frustration, the conditioning starts to drop away because you're watching it and you're saying, oh my God, I don't even like that, very much. So I realize my frustration in this moment, but mind isn't going to give it the meaning ultimately. I'm just going to stop. And 2 seconds later, like after you quit a bad habit and you realize if I just keep it put down, it stays put down. The same thing here. It's like, no, that frustration already wound down. My mind thinks I'm still mad at the thing, but I know I'm really not. And you watch that process 100 times as a sacral being, and suddenly you start to be like, oh my God, I see my strategy unfolding before me. So strategy and authority will tell 34 what to do.
Yeah, so it can make good use of that incredible power.
Yeah, it's incredible power to be rambunctious. It's also an incredible power to do it all wrong, you know, accidentally or whatever, all of this stuff. Incredible power to like push past the rules, hence the skipping steps for the manifesting generator. Just, I don't want it's too slow. I want to get, whatever. We're not in charge of what lights up the 34's responsiveness to release its power in a way that satisfies itself, which becomes its truth. That's the mechanic. And anybody who can internalize what I just said, you've made a good headway start to your strategy and authority as a sacral being.
Cool.
That was a short. Yep.
You feel good about 34?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to continue on to gate 27, which is nourishment, and the gate of caring. Gate 27 is part of tribal defense circuitry, and it links up with splenic gate 50.
So the heading below the name, nourishment, this gate of caring, it says the enhancement of the quality and the substance of all activities through the act of caring, through the sense and the generated work of caring, through the sacral response that naturally wants to care for something. Doesn't mean it's the most loving thing, it can be very loving. Doesn't mean it is the most caring thing, but it has the sacral spice and fuel to sit there and toil over what needs to be cared for. And the thing is, if you've got this gate in your body graph, you may think, I don't want to care for this. I don't want to care for that, because it is pointing at gate 50. And gate 50 does have a fear about taking on too much responsibility. Gate 27, I'm sure, feels some of that reverberated back upon it at times. But regardless, if gate 27 suddenly picks up the seedlings, I'll do more planting things. I don't know if I want to care, but as soon as I start putting those seedlings in the ground, little ones, it's a focused and concentrated effort. For 27, it's like, I must take care. I can't stop now. I've got 8 more to put in the ground. I must care for these things. They're going to wilt in the hot sun. They're not going to make it. The caring here is a survival caring. It's about the survival of the tribe. This is part of the tribal defense circuit, guaranteeing the nurturing and the channel of preserving, which is what this becomes, preservation, a deep sense of nurture connected to the cauldron of the spleen that has a deep, vital knowing of what needs to be nurtured as an awareness, a sudden striking awareness in the now. So when 27 suddenly starts to care for something, don't be surprised when it won't put it down. And it wants to sustain and finish. All things about the sacral are formatted by these format gates. So everything in the sacral would love to 42 finish the thing. Everything about the sacral would love to gate 3 have some order show up, and gate 9 focus and concentrate to make sure you're doing it the right way into the future for posterity. So 27 receives its marching orders as a response and says, I do care. I will nourish this. And the thing is, that's a response. We don't know what that's going to respond to, which is why gate 27 is so perfect for the cross it's in, the right angle cross anyway, of the unexpected. It's just unexpectedly is caring for this now. I mean, if I silently focus on something, or I mutatively in my own unique capacity have some type of a breakthrough that ordering takes place, or I even start maturing a process, or I release my power, that could all be in a vacuum. Caring is the tribal business, and it's going to support other things. It's going to get noticed. It's going to matter to everyone else sooner or later. Now, if that happens at the will of sacral, that can be unexpected. Again, why that cross gets its name. Part of how that cross gets its name. I forget what the other gates of unexpected are. I think it's 27, 28. I forget what the other two gates are of it, but 27, 28, and
27, 28, 31, 41.
31, right? Influence and the clinging fire, right? You add those things up and you get unexpected stuff, but it's still governed very much in this case by 27 that will determine what to care for. And again, that can be quite unexpected.
Yeah, the sacral response to care or not.
Yep, that's all. I mean, and the thing is, sacral's response is outside of will. You can't will your response to be true, right? And it's outside of mind, way outside of mind. Mind has no bearing on what you can think and what you know and all the stuff you held on to over all the time as it relates to memory may aid and support afterwards, but the sacral response to actually enter in is foreign until it arrives. We can't know what that is. It happens, and it happens at the speed of nearly at the speed of lightning. That's because it's electrical circuitry, biochemical, genetically derived electric circuitry in our body that suddenly zaps on or not. And that's what the sacral does. In this case, towards the preservation and defense of the tribe, the family, the children, especially, and anything it cares for, anything whatsoever.
Wonderful. All right, you feel good about 27?
I sure do.
So, continuing on to gate 59, which is dispersion and the gate of sexuality. Gate 59 is part of tribal defense circuitry, and it links up with solar plexus gate 6.
There's so much to say about this gate. I mean, I want you to take over on this a little bit. Just because I have a gate 6 in my body graph, and gate 59 has always been something that could easily attract me when I was unaware. 59's dispersion cares not over what gate 6 might be open to or closed to. Gate 59 is the uninvited guest plenty of times who just crashes in, and you can't really get rid of them very easily because its job is not to concern itself with the circumstance. Its job is to disperse itself and to find intimacy and to break through the aura of the other in the possibility that there may be a friendship here, a romance here, an opportunity of some sort, something to break into. So gate 59 is called the Great Aura Breaker, and it guarantees that if you've got a gate 59 in your body graph, especially in a defined center, but either way it will work, you'll notice that you're always able to break into the aura of the other at first. And this sort of is a welcoming. If you have the whole channel, you'll notice you totally do, and people are quite attracted to you, again, at first. all this stuff about the generative capacity is always at first, because once the generative capacity gets going, the person on the other side might not care for any of that. So we don't know, because the generator starts sustaining, and if it's sustaining at something that's annoying or the other person doesn't want, right? That's up to them. It's not up to you or me that would have this gate. So it's frustration is in the lack of the right sexuality or the right intimacy and the right depth and the right meaning and the right satisfaction to the union that is engendered through gate 59. And that gate 59 basically brings into life, it shocks it into life through this sacral shocking sustaining response, and allows gate 6 to be opened or closed to it. In fact, gate 6 doesn't have to worry about being rude to gate 59. Gate 59 is like the fire hose, it's just always on. Just leave it on.
Yeah, it's always ready to break down
Yeah.
those barriers.
Yeah, and gate 6 is the one with all the work to do in a way, because do I want now? Do I want? How about now? How about now? What's the emotional wave telling me? Oh my God! So 6 will toil, while 59 is like, I'm still on, baby. You know, I'm still on, or not, because sooner or later gate 59 will close off, especially when you get to line 6 of gate 59. You get to that one night stand. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, 59 is that, like, as you said, that intimacy. It's that person who people can just really open up to and start trusting and telling them things in a way, because they're able to, break down that barrier to achieve union. There's a friendliness and an intimacy there that, as you said, it can feel very nice. It can feel very welcoming and like sexy, like the femme fatale and the
Absolutely.
Casanova is line 5.
Yes, yes, it sure is. In line one, the actual well, even one and two, we should do some of the lines of this. So the preemptive strike is line one, the authority and vitality that in understanding purpose and direction can recognize and eliminate the barriers before they become impregnable. The power of fertility to impregnate.
So
That's
it's like
just like,
before the barriers are even up, they can get in. It's like the
mm-mm.
Indiana Jones as he like slides in under the door before it
Yes,
closes.
totally. Slides right in, zoom, and he's fine. Dusts himself off, up he goes. Absolutely. Gate 2 of the 59, self-imposed barriers, restrictive state of the drive to maintain separateness. But that's because it's always willing to be ready to, it's always there with the capacity to be called into something. So this is all about being called into the intimacy, the preemptive strike that just creates it, right? It's the sort of the caveman line. This just goes in and crashes in like the bull, very much authoritatively in a way, because all first lines have that authoritarian aspect to it. And so you take all the lines at gate 59 and they're about one thing: breaking down these barriers that might stand in the way to achieve some possible union that might mean something. In fact, gate 59 and this whole channel very much describe this nine-center way of ours towards communion. We're towards communion. This is looking for its own individual union, but they can add up to the same thing. Yep, the fire hose.
Cool. Feel good about 59?
Sure do.
So this is going to be kind of a mismatch page of these three kind of middle channels. So you have gate 34, where it's linking up with the spleen, the identity, and the throat. Gate 27, which also goes to the spleen, and then 59 goes out the other side to the solar plexus.
So when you put them all together, this becomes part of tribal defenses here, big time. And just the power to sustain for the individual is in 34. And these gates don't all quite have a theme like the lower ones and the top ones, part of this crossing over theme. But they do have their theme: the power to nourish and defend, the preservation and continuation of the tribe through the act of caring, through the act of making more, and the power to sustain at that, and the power that then turns around and also does the work to feed all of that and house all of that and protect all of that. Give me a 34, 27, 59 any day to start a community.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the 27 and the 59, like that's the tribal defense circuitry right there. It's those two gates, part of those channels.
Totally is.
It's that
Indeed.
generative response for the tribe.
It's all generative. Remember the keynotes: sustain, regenerate, work, right? Doing work, responsiveness in the now, always in the now, responsiveness that is outside of mental cognition and independent of will. It just won't, the will has nothing to do with it. That's what you get with the sacral. I call it the dumb box because as a sacral being, I'm sometimes dumb as rocks. I can't tell what's the scoop until I slow down and orient myself in a responsive state, which means if I'm trying to initiate too much, I have to stop and just start the waiting process over again.
Mm-hmm.
I have to wait for an hour or turn on some music just to let something else happen, cleanse the palate, so to speak. And then suddenly the responsiveness takes back over. I can see it. And thank God for that, or I would just be, I would be a bull in a china shop still, only instead of just sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
this
sometimes it has to do that.
yeah, sacral power, it's pretty wild.
Indeed, it is. I feel
Right?
pretty good.
Great. So I'm gonna finally, we're going to be looking at the sacral gates that are going to go up to the identity center. So first up, we have gate 5, which is waiting and the gate of fixed patterns. Gate 5 is part of collective logical circuitry, and it links up with identity gate 15.
It is just this process to start habits. It's juxtaposition cross, if I'm not mistaken, is the juxtaposition cross of ritual or habit or something like that. It's something about doing the same thing over and over again. It's this capacity, and it is waiting. It's waiting to find out what pattern will it fix. It's part of the cellular process, by the way. So if you just take the single cell, be it a blade of grass or a drop of blood from a drop of blood, wherever, you take one single cell, it has a design. It's got a gate 3, it's got a gate 5, and it's got a gate 15. I'm not sure if it has a gate 25. I don't think it does. It's just got 3
For the single cell,
single cells, so 3, a 5, and a 15. And that's it.
single cell, yeah, that's it. It just has the 3, 5, and 15.
Right. So this is part of this rhythm of life because it connects to 15, the extremes, part of the vessel of love that says, it's the love of humanity or not. It's this capacity to accept the extremes of humanity and the gate of extremes. And gate 5, when it collects that energy and that energy hits the sacral says, whoa, whoa, whoa. As much as you think I do all the time, I also wait. I'm just waiting as an active gate 5 is the meaning of waiting as an active state of awareness, which is another keynote for the sacral itself. It's the sacral's buzzing with its energy. Just because it's waiting, it's in an act. It doesn't mean it's doing nothing. It's actively in a state of awareness, awaiting the next response. And this gate that guarantees patterns and the patterns that will fix themselves make sure that life finds its rhythm on this planet, because gate 15 of the extremes is not just the extremes of humanity, it's the extremes of life. Hi, I'm the first cell on the planet, 500 million years ago. It's cold. It's wet. I don't breathe so well because I'm oxidizing through, I forgot what the original, it was fermentation was its original energy source rather than what the mitochondria do now. But regardless, it had to take its extreme environment and create patterns for survival. The rhythm of life guarantee, this is the channel that you're watching when you take a cell and put it in a fertile petri dish, a medium that the cell really likes. And this cell will part of the logic circuitry, and it sets the tantra for humanity's logic process, meaning it puts it into a tantric style rhythm. That's not a sexual rhythm, although it can be, but it's a tantric rhythm. We should look up that word a little more and flesh that word out a little more, just tantra itself. But
Well, we have a future episode we're going to do on the Tantra channels and the format channels.
Cool. You'll be able to school me a little bit more on what just the word tantra itself, because I know there's other juice and meaning that's in that I'm not capturing at this moment, which is fine. I'm just pointing out that as you take this cellular environment and you take a single cell and put it in that petri dish, you will watch inside of a day or two at most, that cell will multiply and multiply and multiply in a steady pace with a rhythm over and over again in a very fixed pattern until it reaches the boundaries of its petri dish. And then it will stop dividing if it's a healthy cell. And it will reach a stasis that says, oh, look, everyone's happy. All the barbaloots are in their barbaloot suits, and all the Lorax trees are giving their Lorax fruits, and everything is just dandy. It's a sunny day, and things are good because it reached its boundaries and it didn't break the rhythm of trying to get more. It basically accepted its limitation, meaning ordering took place from gate 3, and in its ordering, it stopped at the boundaries. That is the rhythm of a healthy life. And that's the rhythm of each cell. And this is part of the channel of rhythm. Now, if you've got a gate 15 and your partner has a gate 5, you're looking at them, or why are you always such a stick in the mud? You only do it this one way or whatever. And the gate 5's looking at, why do you keep bothering me with all your obnoxious crap? Sit still, like leave it alone. I don't care. I don't want to care. That type of thing. So this can be a very difficult electromagnetic.
Hmm.
This is one of the odd couple electromagnetics.
Yeah, I
Let's
have this one with Ika.
Yeah, this can totally. Oh, so he has the 5?
He has the
Because I
5,
know
I have
you
the
got the
15.
15. Right.
Yeah, yeah, he's got the 5, I got the 15. So I handle the crazier stuff, and then he'll handle more consistent stuff. But then since he has consistency, like that conditions me, so he brings consistency into me, and then he needs to just deal with some extreme stuff with me.
It is, you guys are both very lucky that you're the projector in the relationship. You know what I mean? You could help guide that into something with meaning. If you were just another generator, it's quite possible you could be not self-frustrated by that.
Mm,
Over and over again, accidentally, don't know, suddenly riffs come up and it was stupid. But
yeah.
if you allow Ika to have his way, and you'll notice, so he does have rituals and little patterns, and he does the kitchen the same way each time, and he pretty much starts at the same place each time. I have this whole channel. If you saw
Mm.
my patterns and rituals at the way I do things, you're like, good Lord, Dan, how do you keep track of it all? I mean, my coffee is made the same way every single time. Yet, because I have the gate of extremes, it's always an extreme cup of coffee. There was too much of this, a little too much of that, but it's the patterns of making it from
Are
that
still the
to,
same.
yes, from that to everything else. And you can't get these people out of their pattern, nor should you. And if you have the gate, you will drive other people into your patterns or you'll drive them away, like slowly. Again, it's not something coming up against a brick wall, although it could be sometimes. If you have the whole channel, the whole world around you falls into your fixed and rhythmic patterns of of where it's extreme and where it's not. I was the only one with this channel in my body graph in my home, and all the work of the home always got done. And while I was also supposed to do some of the work, I very often didn't, and the stuff still got done. And the house worked great. It's not because of me. I didn't do anything to make that happen. This is just a rhythm that makes part of the whole penta process of a family fall into a rhythm. This becomes the rhythm and the energy and the fertility and the vitality of the inside of the home, not of the family then going out into the world, of the family inside the home before they portray out to the world. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, 515. 5 is the fixed patterns. The 15 is the extremes. It's one of the Tantra channels, but we'll talk about those once we bring up all 3 at the end. So that could be its own little self-contained unit. So yeah,
I
fixed.
love I love the picture just step by step by step in a pattern. And if one step has a higher rise than the other, the fixed pattern's gonna wanna find a way to incorporate that as an extreme or fix it into the same height as all the other steps. But again, it could be just as happy with one tall step because it's extreme, it's different. And it'll tell everyone else, hey, the third step down is taller than all the rest. You're gonna trip a couple times so you get used to it. That's stupid, but it's also extreme. and it can fit into a pattern. It is a bad idea to have one step have a taller riser than all the other steps, right? Everyone will be tripping. You get a little old lady, she's going to break a hip. Fix that, dude. It is dangerous, but it's also extreme and it can fit into a pattern. I want to read the name, fundamental, the line below it, this fixed patterns, this gate of waiting, fundamental attunement to natural rhythms. And these are natural rhythms. Just fundamental attunement to natural rhythms. And it says waiting as an active state of awareness. It's just a beautiful thing. Its first line, its foundation, is got a life process to it. It's called perseverance. It just will, sorry, it's this way. Sorry, it's this way. But it's a life process that says, if the captain must, he goes down with the ship. And if not, he'll jump off. So basically, this is the determination to stay with the fixed pattern or hop off the fixed pattern. So if needed, the fixed pattern will withstand the extremes and bring the extreme nature back into a modest fixed pattern. That's no big deal anymore. 10 years later, everyone in the family got used to that one step that was higher than all the others. No one trips on it. It's modest. It's not that big a deal. Just don't have your aunt over anymore. Whatever. That was an example, but yeah, I'm pretty good with 5.
Great. So moving on to gate 14, which is possession in great measure and the gate of power skills. Gate 14 is part of individual knowing circuitry and it links up with identity gate 2.
Yeah, so this is carrying on the individual pulse. If gate 3 made ordering take place like a firestorm, which is what it'll do because it's a pulse, suddenly it all starts working out. Gate 14 is the abundance of that reaching towards its ultimate expression. Everything from the top of the sacral that pushes into the identity can be keynoted with 46's keynote. It's pushing upward. I mean, 46 is very particular, pushing upward into the kingdom of your heavenly body, essentially. But all of them are pushing upward. This one is pushing upward the great mutative energy that it picked up from 60 and 3. That, if you think about it, 60 and 3, they more than just finished a relay race. They just finished the marathon and they finished the whole triathlon. They did a ton of work because there was nothing, and then suddenly they birthed something into creation. 14 is still doing versions of that because it's in the pulse, but it receives that pulse. And because the thing was so fantastically energized from the format channel below, it guarantees that 14 is seen as its name, this possession in great measure. And people see gate 14 as the vital, persevering energy to get particular work done and make the company stronger and get the thing to work right. And it brings that particular abundance. The heading below the name of possession in great measure is the accumulation and retention of power through skilled interaction, coupling grace with control. And the first line is money isn't everything, the recognition that wealth has its own problems. So this is the first instance where we're pushing up into what gate 2 right above it wants. It wants to drive a direction with gate 14 as the gas pedal. Gate 14 provides the gas and the fuel. That's why it seems so abundant, because gate 2 is seeking to take a direction. So a direction into the future, a direction concerning the past, concerning memory, concerning right now, concerning the next creative thing, concerning creativity in general, and concerning the pulse. And everything else in the body graph thinks that gate 14 is possessive in such great measure that it somehow transcends the pulse. This 14 always got it. They've always got it. No, they don't always have it. But it's projected upon us if it does. So much so that the ancient I Ching, the very first rendition of it, of which I'm sure there's new renditions of it, but whatever they wrote down first, they exalted every line of gate 14. They just exalted everything, was like abundant in this, abundant in that. And you got a good picture there. Like any workman can have their belt on and have that, load of wood over their shoulder, and they're going to walk up a ladder with it. Gate 14 is seen as the one that will always do it, get it right, and always have the right tools on it. And because of that, they're also strong, and they're going to move up that ladder, and they carry a little more wood than maybe the guy next to them is seemingly. And they also make sure the projects get done a little ahead of schedule so that the company and the boss make even more money because they can move on quicker now to the next project. And that's the abundance that's seen in here. That's the vital energy that is seen as part of this, because gate 2 right above it is saying, I just want to hurry, but I have no motor. I rely on 14. And 14 is like, when will I ever stop working? I seem to work and I don't seem to get anywhere. And gate 2 is like, hey, dummy, we're getting somewhere. Just watch. You got to see. And so without gate 2, the melancholy of gate 14, remember, all individual definition, centering or knowing circuit, all of it has a melancholy or sadness that attaches to it as a mechanism for making it more intelligent. And the intelligence creating melancholy that comes out of gate 14 helps it find the right work to do. Because the melancholy is, when will the work ever end? When will I ever get ahead? And most gate 14s actually do fine, but they work themselves too hard because it's a generated, sustaining workforce. And it's been formatted from below. I mean, it just got shocked into existence by a sudden pulse that ordering came. What's it supposed to do with that? You know, it's got to work on it now. So possession of the capacity to empower work and direction towards beauty and love of extremes, and love of the body, and love of everything, and love of humanity, in a way that is creative, mutative, wrangles the issues that move us forward, and deals with the issues that came from our past. That's our direction. We're always doing it. And 14 is the tantric pushing of that. In fact, all the other gates between the sacral and the identity serve this channel as it relates to the penta. So 46, 29, 15, and 5, they drop down energy and they pour it right back up to the fountain, which is a 14 and 2, to move that direction. And 2 is amazing. Gate 2, we haven't done the G center yet, have we? Yeah, so I won't spoil it yet, but I mean, 2 is a beguiling energy. It's just that there's no reason for it. We can't find meaning to it. We have to wait and see what it does, but we can see what it calls. It calls the energy out of gate 14, creating the sense of 14's abundance. And it says, hurry up. Everything about this channel says, hurry up. In fact, something funny, when you think of tantric channels, we won't go into all the details of what that is, but this is the channel that says, hurry up. So hopefully you get the joke. Yeah, because it does say, hurry up.
That's funny. You feel good about 14?
I do.
Awesome. So next up, the last gate of our sacral center, we have gate 29, which is the abysmal, and it's the gate of perseverance, and it's part of collective abstract circuitry. And 29 links up with identity gate 46. And the abysmal meaning the abyss, like the depth of water, not like abysmal, like bad.
Right. It can have a little bit of that abysmal bad thing, because if you start persevering at the thing that's wrong for you, it's an abysmal life for you until you finally get out. So, but the abyss is what it's doing because it's so deep. The heading below the name of the line itself, this abysmal gate of perseverance, is the deep within the deep. Persistence, despite difficulties, does have its inevitable rewards. This is the thing that sustains and is persistent. This gives gate 29 gives one of the primary keynotes to the sacral of sustainment. Gate 29 just perseveres and perseveres, and it's not aware, so if it doesn't enter into things as a sacral response, it's constantly getting hijacked as the gate of saying yes when it meant to say no. And it's collective, so the things that come in are asking it to share its energy. Things that come in on 14 don't necessarily are asking it to share its energy, or they want to ask it to share its energy, but it's a unique freak, so it's not sure what it's going to get. But 29 is recognized as a sharing process. Let me share my request to get this 29 to say yes, and maybe the 29 will share yes with me. And then when they share yes, boom, we're doing what gate 29 is supposed to do. It drives the completion of the experiential process. The part of that completion seems like it's in 35. That's the emotional wave experience. This is the total experience, including the 35, that then gets into the pool and the well through the vessel of love that says, okay, gate 13, account for all the stuff we just went through. Be the prodigal. I've delivered you the end of the road. We were in the experience. Gate 29 persevered to keep us there. We stayed in the now, and we are in this experience. Now we have something to share. And 13 becomes the governor, part of the Sphinx, of how that's going to get shared, when that's going to get shared, when that story will get told. The prodigal determines the flavor in which to tell that story. It's almost as if it's manipulating memory a little bit, like gate 26, except it's not there for an ego purpose. It's just there to account for and be part of the accounting process of our collective history that gives us all the wisdom. I mean, those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. We've heard this over and over. And 13 is to break that cycle. We've done a pretty crappy job sometimes of breaking that cycle here on planet Earth amongst humanity, but sometimes we've done a good job, and hopefully it'll get better. So the perseverance of 29, the first line is the draftee, the ability to adapt to the struggle when necessary, but not as a permanent state. So if you said yes when you didn't mean to say yes, recognize that's your gate 29. The ability to persevere into the experience that pushes upward into gate 46, which says, I love myself in my body. I love the fact that myself and my body are here in this experience. Please, 29, keep the gas pedal on, keep the fuel coming so that we have the vital energy and fertility to make it through this entire experience. It is tantric after all, and it does push upward, and it leads to serendipity. Think about it. You persist and sustain and maintain and perseverance, and you persevere, and you can't help it. Uh, you know, that guy might see it as dumb luck and lucky that something finally broke, but everyone around them will be like, dude, you stayed at it like no other. You put that energy into it, and frankly, you know, it's not dumb luck. You got there despite the sense of serendipity. You got there through your own efforts, or half what you got there, half of what you got you there. So that's what 29 is here to do for us. And again, it says yes, and it's one of the gates I don't have, or else I would have that whole channel. And funny story, every time I tried to get a penta in my business, every single time, except for once or twice for a little while, we were always missing one gate. If we were ever missing one gate, it was this gate. And slowly but surely, my penta at work always had a problem persevering out into the world.
Huh.
We would disorganize, and I'd have to pull it back together through an amazing effort. So 29 holds things together if it's entered into right. And if you have a gate 29, watch how quick you are to say yes. And now we'll start working on something with your strategy and your authority so that you stop doing that, except when it's right for you. Yeah, this one will hijack you totally, like
Yeah,
42.
yeah, I've heard that Gate 29 described as almost like a sacral version of willpower
Right. Yeah.
because it's like regenerative. It's almost like a regenerative willpower.
It very much acts like that with all the sacral uncertainty that comes with the sacral center, uncertain about, am I doing the right thing? Will I do the right thing? And you have only that strategy to tap into. And so hopefully someone in your life is like, yeah, dude, I see you're doing that. Do you like it? So the sacral can be struck with that question and be like, well, a little bit.
Actually,
Actually, well, I mean, God, I guess, wow, I guess I don't maybe, or I not as much as I know. That's how that would work. That's that conversation. No, not really. I mean, every once in a while I can get into it, but it's not, it's not my life's passion type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 29, time to stop saying yes to this thing. You're not, that's the thing. These things cross over like they do in the ajna. So what is 29 gathering? It's gathering the format energy of 42. Rewind and listen to what we said about 42 and translate that into everything we just said about 29. These things go together.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder it's abysmal. No wonder it goes down so deep. No wonder the perseverance seems to know no end when it's right for it, and seems to be the epitome of misery when it is wrong for it. 29 is the time to make the donuts guy. I don't know if that is too old for you, that marketing campaign of Dunkin' Donuts, where the little short fat guy with a mustache and put on his Dunkin' Donuts, and every day at like 4:30 it's like time to make the donuts, just like clockwork, time to make the donuts. He was Mr. Fixed Patterns, he was Mr. Gate 5, 14, and 29 all at the same time. And everyone loved him because that just meant that Dunkin' Donuts was always going to have the donuts, and they delivered, and for decades they always had what you wanted type thing. People still love a Dunkin' Donut coffee, right? Some people swear by it, and it's a brand because that guy exemplified 5, 14, and 29.
Perfect. So gate 29, make sure you're with any gate of the sacral, make sure you're listening to that sacral response, but especially that 29, so you can use that persevering deep energy for something you're actually really into.
And don't be the draftee that's unwilling.
Perfect. Ready to
Yep.
mosey?
Let's mosey.
So let me get back to the screen.
I wish you remembered that campaign. It
I
was
remember
around,
when you described the imagery of it, I remembered it. I didn't remember verbally initially, but no, I remember that.
yeah. I mean, it was around for like 10 years. It had a long run for a
Well,
campaign. Yeah.
so here we're going to be talking about our three gates that go from the sacral to the identity center. These are also known as the tantric gates, the tantra channels. And so going through the Human Design book, the definition of tantric channels, channels 515, 14.2, and 2946 between the sacral and G centers, the fertile life forces of the sacral empowering identity in a specific direction as an expression of the higher self through the G center.
Yes. And that higher self is pushing up 2/3 through the vessel of love and 1/3 through the Sphinx. And that's it. So the Sphinx and the vessel, which is the only two crosses that exist in only one center, right? Every other cross splits up across centers and has various aspects except the sacral and the Sphinx. They are our love and direction. And we've all noticed by now in our 9-centered forms that love rules the day. Love is a force, and the light that love shines down on things. It can be cool love, it can be abstract love, it can be passionate love, all the various things. And we know them all: love of my pet rock, and love of my favorite pen, and love of my best friend, and love of you, Moni, right? And love of this show, right? All of it. And that's what that tantric energy is doing. It puts it into a rhythm that is willing to persevere and get the work done that suddenly drives a direction. There, I've keynoted these gates. I didn't know I was going to do that, but I mean, since it came out, that concludes. I think I put them together.
That's your definition. Yeah, so it's the sacral generative response that's empowering identity of the identity and direction of the G center.
It's so good. I'm so glad you read that because it allowed me to say all that stuff that way.
Yay, we did it.
Moni and I work at such a really cool way. I'm right-minded. She's strategic. I'm open receptive. I'm sacral. She's projector. This is the archetype of a combination of two beings, right? Also male and female. Not that that really would matter as much. And I just am so happy because she says things and then suddenly I find myself responding, and then she finds herself recognizing, and then her recognitions find me responding to them, and it's its own energetic thing. It's perpetual energy motion.
Yay.
Yeah,
Yay, go us. So you feel good about these
I
tantric
feel good
channels?
about this. Yep.
Great. All right, let me get back to the screen. And so now on this very busy page, we're going to do our little recap, tying it all together of the sacral center, this vital energy, this fertility of the sacral center, and all the gates associated.
I don't know, Moni. I don't think I can do it. It's just too busy. It's too much.
You're
That's
the one who
funny.
told me to do it.
Nope, not your turn. Go ahead.
I'm not. This is
I,
your idea to tie
I'm
them all together.
I'm gonna do it. I'll do it. So it's just so much. I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh my God.
You don't have to. We could just talk the two of our faces.
Yeah, we did talk our faces up, but actually I sort of want to. I'll start with 42. I'll do what the wheel does. I'll go
You
counterclockwise
don't have to
starting
go
with
through all of them. It's just, wrap up.
what?
We've just been talking about the sacral center. You don't have to go through every single one.
Hold on a second. The sacral center, our desire to sustain, grow things through the difficulty, through all the details, the power to sustain it, all of that, the power to possess the thing, the power to stay in the fixed things, the power to disperse, the power to nourish, and the power to work through the abysmal. The sacral center is this vital energy that is so satisfied with each of these things when it enters into itself correctly, and it is exactly not satisfied, frustrated, and dangerous, frankly, to itself and to others and to the projects at hand when it is frustrated, entering into things that are not itself. The sacral center is the abundant energy that is keynoted so well in Gate 14, which is this abundant energy that's always seems to be pushing upward into a direction, right through the heart of the vessel of love, into the direction of humanity, which guarantees beauty and it guarantees communion when we wake up to our nature. That's the sacral. That's why it's so sought after. And that's why it's so stuck in its patterns. And that's why people are so frustrated with it when they have a sacral, because they just haven't gotten into their strategy and authority in their experiment. Get into your experiment and you'll see the joy and the glory of everything I just said, because you got to admit what I just said sounds pretty cool. I want some.
Everyone wants a little sacral energy.
Everyone wants a little. Yep. Yeah. And it can't know. The sacral can't know until it's oriented in a responsive state. I keep saying this, reorient yourself into a responsive state. Take those words, run them around, like throw them up in the air, throw all the letters up in the air, do whatever you need to do to knead that into a piece of bread or something that becomes your understanding of what I just said. Please reorient yourself into a responsive state, like your dog in the window, right? That thing just doesn't bark until another dog walks by. Why not squirrels, birds? It's looking. But when another dog walks by, boom, bark. When that dog's out of view, boom, stops. Oops, sorry about that. So it's amazing, in my opinion. It's all the sustaining energy that guarantees we're going to get all this crazy work done and be satisfied and love ourselves doing it.
That's really nice. Sacral's real impressive.
I don't know where to go from here except to conclude. I think we're done. We
Yeah.
told people that the sacral is what it is, and we gave it all that meaning. This to me, this is perfect.
Yeah. I mean, we've got through them all, talked about what it does, how it responds to stuff. Oh,
Yep.
here we go. We have a question from Friends with Audio. Any thoughts about men with an undefined sacral?
Tons of thoughts. Let them, friends with audio. Uh, let them not be the workhorse that is supposed to slave every day. So if they're the trash guy, they have to stop after their 2 or 2:30 p.m. trash runs. They just need to take a break. That's what I think about the male of the species that has the open sacral center, because they're not a generator. Get them deeply involved with their strategy and their authority as it relates to their operations so that they don't lose track of when enough is enough. I mean, Moni, speak to that. You're the one that knows, oh my God, amplifying the sacral, right?
Yeah. I mean, we
It
can get,
nearly killed you at one point,
yeah,
probably.
totally. Yeah. We can totally get overwhelmed with it. And I think like the key is just you have to, as an undefined sacral, know when it's time to take a break, and especially like being horizontal, because by being horizontal we can discharge all that excess sacral energy that we're constantly absorbing and picking up when we're vertical. So my trick of doing anything is I do something, I work for a little bit, I run around for a little bit, and then there's a point where it's like I should lay down now. And it's funny because I usually get that I should lay down now like a split second before it's like, look at how much I'm doing. You should keep going, keep going. You're so great. You're
Right.
getting so much done. So learning to first hear that initial body feeling that's like, hey, you've been doing a lot. Maybe you should like go take a horizontal before the open sacral is going to be like, no, no, keep going, keep going. And then even just laying down 5, 10, 15 minutes, like laying down in your car in between doing something, like I've done that so many times, that can really, really help the undefined sacral being able to function better, because otherwise we'll just get overloaded. And I kind of see it as like an energetic oil change. If I could lay down and discharge the sacral energy, then I can get fresh new sacral energy from the people around me that's going to write cleaner and smoother and just better, because we're running on that dirty oil. We start to get really frazzled when we're like sacral buzzed out. So laying down is really the key, because you'll get more done in the long run if you
Alone.
lay down. Yeah.
Alone. Laying down alone. It
Ideally.
doesn't help if you lay down with your sacral boyfriend or girlfriend, you know what I'm saying, and you're open sacral.
It's true.
Alone.
If you need to,
Discharge. Yep.
if you're gonna spend the share a bed with somebody who does have a defined sacral to your undefined sacral, make sure you lay down for like an hour before them. Because if you lay down at the same time, they fall asleep right away, and then you're just laying there and you're just resenting them, bitter that they're sleeping so good and you can't, because it's like you're still discharging energy, you're still feeling them. So that's like the other trick.
Up to and including separate bedrooms.
Yeah, separate bedrooms are great.
Yep. Absolutely great. Just a place to sneak away. But yeah, discharge that energy, cleanse that aura by getting out of the general aura. Recognize that if you're an open sacral being, no matter where you go, the general aura is generated, whether there's no generators or not, because as soon as there's 3 people, the chance of there being no sacral or no sacral connection is down to almost nil. And as soon as there's a crowd, forget it. You're inside a manifesting generated aura. No, no ifs, ands, or buts. What would the chances of even 5 people coming together, 5 random people on planet Earth, 8 billion people, what, 1 out of 10, 20,000,
It
that
would
5,
be incredible, like monumentally
wicked
small,
small.
micro,
Yep,
micro small, to imagine that 3 people could get together and not define a sacral.
yep, yep, yep.
Oh yeah,
So
it's always there as soon as you're out and about in that world. So creating like a little sanctuary, a little like non-sacral energy sanctuary. Like I love my house because when I'm here alone, I don't feel any neighbors. Like there's no crossover of energy, so I get to just fully be in my own to understand what that is. And then I can feel like right now we have the 2034 lighting everyone up. Everyone is a manifesting generator right now. So being able to recognize that, get some stuff done, and then realize it's time to lay down because it starts to get really like edgy, agitaty, shaky kind of thing.
absolutely. Nourish yourself correctly too. Now would be
Mm-hmm.
a time to slide yourself in to get a handle on your dietary regimen, because that would be, again, to the very same question that was asked. It would be, besides the rest at this regular point when you find it and finding that point to do it, it's to be nourished as yourself according to your dietary regimen along the way, so that that rest is fruitful and so that the work is fruitful. Don't forget, you non-sacral cats very often get a lot more work done than we generators do, because we're just frustrated half the time. So how much work are we really going to get done while all that potential is sitting there buzzing? Picture a high output motor car automobile that's pretty intense. It's got all that American guts in it, let's say. It's just, but it's just sitting there idling, but it's not idling where it's supposed to. It's idling high. It's just but it's not going anywhere. Not getting, and yet you open sacral people very often help lead and guide the way. And suddenly you're going somewhere, and I'm like, what the hell? How come they're, and then suddenly I'm chasing after them, and it's like, okay, now I'm going somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a symmetry that we must share together, because if it was just a sacral planet, we would be dumb as rocks.
Yeah, no, the undefined sacrals, we can be more clever with the use. We can be more choosy with the use of sacral energy because we're not stuck in a sacral response. The sacral response, that's what the response is. Like Danny said, you can't will it differently. Whereas when it's undefined, we get to kind of play with all the different sacral energy and use it however we want and overuse it sometimes and then, deal with the consequences of that. But yeah, we can definitely get things done oftentimes quicker or more faster, but it'll be the
Definitely.
generators who will know when to stop. Like,
Yep.
I remember several years ago being at a party and everyone, who's working the party and producing the party, they're running around and doing the thing. And then there's a certain point where you can tell most of the people who are producing it had stopped and they're chilling out and they're having a drink and they're hanging out. And there's like two or three people running around like mad. And I knew their designs. And I was like, oh, those are projectors who don't know when
Right.
enough is enough, and
Right.
they're getting so mad and frustrated, and then they're even more annoyed that they're doing the work that other people should be doing, and they're like stomping around and yelling at people.
And the generators are saying the motor's turning off, lady or dude.
Yeah,
I don't care. I don't
yeah,
want to care. And it's almost rude in a
yeah,
way, but we don't mean it that way, of course.
yeah. But it was wild for me to know their designs and to completely recognize what was going on, and I was like, it's not I don't got to work this. So I was laying on a couch at this point, just watching all of this take place where the generators, their motors had turned out and they like chilled.
Predictable.
Yeah. And just a couple bitter, angry projectors who you couldn't get them to stop if you tried because they're so caught up in that buzz and they don't know who they are and they don't know that they're supposed to stop and rest and lay down and take a minute. And they just ended up yelling at people and storming out at some point.
Yeah. 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 I mean, the only thing really to do at a moment like that would be to knowingly and as lovingly as possible, but as directly as possible, point out the folly of it and how I'm not responsible for their anger that may show up later, or their agitation and whatever shows up at that. And it would be a really frank, almost difficult conversation.
I was not invited to share my insights, and I'd been in my design long enough to know it's not worth it. So I
Oh,
just
that's so
watched the
funny.
show. I was just literally laying on the couch. I was feeling my sacral discharge, and I was just watching the show of just like this is a movie. And
Yeah.
and
No,
I'll share with somebody who's actually interested in my projector musings. But otherwise, I'm like, I'm not getting involved in that nonsense.
I
I've done that
totally get that.
before. I've been an uninvited projector sharing my wisdom and getting rebuked and whatnot. It's like, no, no, no. I'm just gonna watch the show now.
It's so funny. There are times when I do feel compelled and it's a responsive nature. It's pouring out of my throat. I would have to try to stop it. And then I'm not satisfied. I don't feel good,
But yeah, I
necessarily.
mean,
I could see myself butting in at that moment. We never know. We're all so unique and different, guys. This is why strategy and authority is so important. Type, strategy, authority, definition, open centers, defined centers. I mean, I just outlined in just that moment what primarily is inside of a reading and what you need to know and how we get you into an experiment where you start seeing it for yourself. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen, ever done in my whole natural life. I urge everyone to be read and get this analysis going. Same with your children and your partners.
it just makes life easier to know your user's manual. And then it's just fun to watch it. Once you learn a few little keynotes, like human design is a little confusing initially, like admittedly, but once you start picking up a few little things and you start learning how to notice, oh, that generator didn't wait for their response. That manifester is afraid to initiate. That projector is trying to help and like, oh, are they going to fall on their face because they didn't wait to be invited? And you just get to watch the show and it becomes really amusing and really humanizing. And I find I had more compassion for myself, and then I had a lot more compassion for other people to not get annoyed that why aren't you like this and why aren't I different? Like you could just understand like it's not how I was wired, it's not how they were wired.
Humanizing.
Yeah, it's very
That was
humanizing.
that was the word that struck me the most, and compassionately humanizing without becoming anything nearly describing as toxic compassion or anything like too much of it type thing.
Yeah, and it's not like a bypassing thing either. It's like you
That's
got to
right
want
from
to
the
deal
heart.
with your strategy and experiment with your authority, or you're just gonna not. You can't bypass it. You have to go dive into the deconditioning and whatnot.
Indeed, you do. So I feel good about all of the sacral. I think we did the thing. I think we did what we needed to do here.
I think we did it. We got through the sacral gate. So thank you for everyone for hanging out. Next week, we're going to go into the identity center, the G center, and we're going to go through those 8 gates and talk about it like we did today. So thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out and commenting. Thank you for liking and subscribing. It really, really helps. And we will catch you next week. Bye.
Love you guys. See you next week.